So by the end of this video, we will have built out a customer support email agent in n8n using Pinecone as our vector database. This is a great way to automate your customer support because we will be loading in a FAQ document into this Pinecone vector database. And whenever we receive an email in Gmail, this agent will be able to classify the email as customer support and respond accurately. So without further ado, let's just jump into a new workflow in n8n and get started. So this automation will be triggered by a Gmail node. We're going to be choosing this on message received trigger. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to set up our credential for Gmail. So I already have one set up, but we're going to create a new credential right here. We're going to be using the OAuth 2, which is the recommended connection. We're going to click sign in with Google. You're going to click your account that you want to sign in with. You're going to select all, give access to n8n cloud, click continue, and you should have a successful connection. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to send a mock customer support questions. We're going to be sending this to the email that we just connected to our n8n workflow. I'm going to call the subject line customer support question. And all I'm going to ask is, hi, what is your return policy? So we're going to send that off. We're going to go back to n8n. So one thing that we will want to do is we will want to turn off this simplify toggle right here. We're going to click fetch test event, and this should pull in that email that was just sent. And as you can see on the right, here's all the information from that email that we had just sent regarding the return policy. You can even see right here the json.text, hi, what is your return policy? So it accurately pulled it in. So we can just click this pin data button at the very top, and this will pin the data so we won't have to keep fetching this data. Now, the next step is we want to feed this email into a text classifier. So we'll add a node called text classifier to this workflow. And the text that we want to classify is that JSON text that we had just looked at before. There it is. Hi, what is your return policy? So you want to click that, drag that over to the text to classify. And now every time you pull in an email, it will pull that JSON.text, the body of the email, right into this text to classify section. So now we want to configure the categories that this text classifier will classify the text into. So we'll want to add a category for customer support. We'll also want to add a description telling the classifier exactly what emails should be classified under customer support. So I'm just going to switch this to expression, go full screen, and copy and paste this description right here. So an email that is related to helping out a customer, emails from customers asking for help, clarification, or information about Pets for Life services, policies, or products. So Pets for Life is the kind of made up company that we're going to be doing this for. We're going to have a FAQ document for them later. So anything related to Pets for Life services, policies, or products will be classified down this path. Now, the other category that we're going to add is just an other category. And for now, we'll just say that the description is any email that is not related to customer support. So now if we click out of this, we should have two different paths, customer support and other. And now what we'll want to do is we'll want to choose the model that we use for this text classifier. So for now, I might keep this very simple and just use an open router chat model. We're going to stick with GPT 4.1 mini for now. So we've got our text classifier built out. For this build, if it goes down to the other, I'm just going to have it be a no operation, do nothing. So the workflow will end there if it goes to other. And for the customer support path, we'll want to feed that email body in the form of JSON text to an AI agent that can intelligently respond to it using an FAQ document that has been loaded into Pinecone. So in order to do that, we're going to add an AI agent node. We're not going to be using a connected chat trigger node because there is not a connected chat trigger node. In this case, we're going to want to define the input below using the user message. And in order to get that input, we'll want to execute previous nodes on the left-hand side. And going back to the Gmail trigger, we're actually going to be pulling in the exact same JSON.text. If only I can find it. Here it is, text. We're going to pull that right in Gmail trigger.item.json.text. So we'll put that into the user message. So that is what the AI agent is receiving. And there's a lot of different ways that we can customize this agent. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to add a system message telling the agent exactly what it is meant to do. So we're going to switch to expression. We're going to go full screen. Right now, it only has a very simple "You are a helpful assistant" prompt, but we're going to change this to something a bit better. So here's the prompt that we're going to use. It has a role, it has goals, output format, and also an example sign off. The role it has is: you are a friendly, helpful customer support agent working for Pets for Life. Your job is to read incoming customer emails and reply clearly using the provided FAQ knowledge base. We've added the goals. It can use emojis, avoid repeating the customer's question, close off with a personal sign off, and we have an example of that. Output format: only output the email body content. Do not include a subject line, greeting, or email formatting. So now that we have our AI agent set up, what we'll want to do is add a chat model and the actual tool that it can use. So the chat model, again, I'm just going to use an OpenRouter chat model with GPT 4.1 mini. So we're going to add this in as the chat model. And then next up for the tool, we're going to use a Pinecone vector database. In order to set this up, we're going to want to go to Pinecone's website. So we're going to go to pinecone.io and we're going to set up our own account. So I'm going to click sign up here in the top right. I'm going to click continue with Google. And I'm going to use the same exact email that I have set up in my n8n node. So we're going to click continue. It's going to ask us a few questions. So we're just going to go through and fill out this stuff. Doesn't really matter what exactly you put in. So then you're going to get your API key. So this is your default API key. We're going to go ahead and copy this. Make sure to store this safely somewhere where you don't forget. We're going to close out of here. So the next step is that we want to create an index. We're going to call this anything that you want. So I'm just going to call it demo. So the next thing you need to do is you need to choose the configuration for your embeddings model. This will basically take the text chunks from the FAQ document and turn them into individual vectors. So I'm going to use the text embedding 3 small from OpenAI right here. This one's very cost effective. So now I'm just going to scroll down. We're going to keep it as serverless. We're going to just stay with AWS. We'll click a region that's relatively close to us, and then we'll click create index at the bottom. So now that we've created our index, let's go to API keys. We're going to create a new API key. We'll call this n8n demo. Create key. We'll copy that key, and then back into our n8n workflow, we're going to add that API key right here in the Pinecone vector database. So we're going to create a new credential. We're going to paste that API key right here. Click save. Credential has successfully been created, which is great. Make sure to label your credential up at the top left. Click save. So now we're going to pivot a little bit. And right now we have this Pinecone vector database, but we haven't actually loaded any documents into it. So we haven't loaded this FAQ document into it. So our AI agent can access the Pinecone vector database to respond to these customer support requests. So now let's scroll down. So now we're going to add a Google Drive trigger. We're going to scroll down to triggers, and now we're going to choose the on changes involving a specific folder. So we want to, whenever a file is created in this folder, be able to download it and then load it into this Pinecone vector database. So first we're going to set up our credential for Google Drive. So we're going to create a new credential, and you can see that you need a client ID, a client secret. So in order to do this, we're going to go to the Google Cloud console. We're going to look up the Google Drive API, and then we're going to click enable. We're going to scroll down to credentials, and we're basically just going to create a new credential. So we're going to create credentials. We're going to do an OAuth client ID. We're going to configure our consent screen, get started. We're going to just type in n8n. For the audience, we're going to click on external. And then for contact information, I'm just going to use the same exact email that I'm using for this API setup. And then we can click finish. Now click create. So we're not done yet. We're going to click on audience, and we're going to add ourselves as a test user. So we're going to scroll down and add a test user. And again, I'm just going to add in the same exact email that we've been using for this entire project. And once we've done that, finally, all we have to do is go into clients. We're going to create a new client. We're going to click web application. And then for the name, we're just going to call this demo once again. And then what we will have to do is add a redirect URI. So if you actually go back into n8n, we should have a URI right here. So we can click to copy, go back to the Google Cloud console, add in that URI right here, and then click create. So this should give you the client ID and the client secret, which we will need. As you can see, we need the client ID here and the client secret. We're just going to go back and copy those two right now. So client ID copied. We're going to paste that in. Next up on the list, client secret, back into n8n. We'll add that in, and then we'll click sign in. Credential was successfully created. And now all we need to do is just sign in with that email that we've used. Click continue, and then we're going to give n8n access. So you can see connection was successful. And now I'm just going to type in the email that I used just so I don't forget. And boom, we've created a new credential. So within this Google Drive, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new folder. We're going to call it FAQ. And this is where we're going to add that FAQ document within. So this is the FAQ document for Pets for Life. And basically what we're just going to do is we're going to add this file right into this folder FAQ, and then back into n8n. We're going to look for changes involving a specific folder. We're going to look up FAQ. We're going to choose that folder, and then we're going to watch for files created. So now what we can do is we can fetch test event. Once again, it should pull in that document on the right-hand side. What we're going to do now is we're going to pin that data right here. And now the next step in this workflow is we're going to do the download Google Drive node. We're going to click download file. And what this will allow us to do is actually download this file as a binary file. So we're going to make sure to use the same credential. We're going to have it file, operation download, and instead of from list, we're going to use by ID. And then in the schema, we're going to search for the ID of this file. And I believe it's right here, this ID. There's multiple different IDs, but you're looking for one that is not entrenched in a folder. And it looks like it is this one. And yep, this is the one, json.id. So we can go ahead and execute this step. So the resource you are requesting could not be found. I think this is because we're using the wrong credential. So you need to make sure that you have the right credential here. Now let's click execute step again, and boom, there we go. We have the file. We can click download. It's a binary file now, so we can click download and see if we can actually look at it. So yeah, there's the file. So we have it. That's great. Now what we'll want to do is we'll want to pass this on to Pinecone vector database. And this time, what we're going to do is we're going to click add documents to vector store. So this is going to be insert documents mode. We're going to click the Pinecone index that we created, which is called demo. We have our Pinecone demo credential set up. And at the very bottom, we're going to add option. We're going to create a Pinecone namespace. We're just going to call this the Pets for Life FAQ. Now we will want to use the same embeddings model that we chose originally, which was the embeddings 3 small model. You can use the n8n free OpenAI API credits, or you can create your new credential, which will require us to go to OpenAI's API website. So we'll go to OpenAI's API website. We'll log into their API platform. It'll ask you some information to set up your account. But once you're in, it's pretty straightforward. We'll just have to answer a few questions, create your organization. Maybe I'll invite my team later, and then we can generate our API key. So we'll copy this. This can be our test key for now. You can buy credits later. You will want to add some credits. If we go to dashboard in the top right and then click API keys, this is where you can create your API keys. So we're going to create a new test key right here. We'll call this n8n demo, create secret key, and we'll just copy this key right here, head back over to n8n. We'll paste that key right here. And then we'll rename this credential to the email that we used. Now click save. Credential was successfully created. So we have a embeddings model. So now we'll want to add a document loader, and we're going to choose the default data loader. There's two types of data that we can load with this. There's JSON and binary. In this example, it's pretty easy because the data that we're choosing is binary. So we're going to go with the binary right here. And then for text splitting, we're going to choose custom. And then we're going to add a text splitter right here. We're going to choose the recursive character text splitter. And then it'll ask us for the chunk size and chunk overlap. I'm not going to go too in depth here. We'll just leave it as is. And then what we'll do now is we'll just execute the entire workflow. And this should insert that FAQ document into our Pinecone vector database. Okay, so we ran the workflow and we have this error basically saying that there is a mismatch between the dimensions of our Pinecone index and the embeddings model that we're using here in n8n. So this is actually great that this happened live and we can kind of debug this together right now. So if we head into Pinecone, the dimensions that we're using here are 512 and the default dimensions used by OpenAI will be 1536 unless we specify the specific dimensions used. So if we head back into n8n and we go into our embeddings model, we can add an option to specify the dimensions. And let's just select 512 so that everything matches up. So now let's just rerun this and see if it works. Okay, so it works and it outputted 5 items, which means that our recursive character splitter chunked the PDF file that we loaded into Pinecone into 5 different chunks. So if we even open this up, you can see that there's 5 chunks right here. I know it says 4, but computers start counting at 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different chunks loaded into our Pinecone vector database. And if we head into Pinecone, we now have a namespace created called FAQ. So now what we can do is actually head back over to the agent that we've been working on, and we can finish setting up this Pinecone vector store node right here. So if we click into here, this time we're going to do things a little bit different. We're going to retrieve the document as a tool for the AI agent to use. So we're simply going to add a mini description telling the agent when to use this tool. So we're just going to say, call this tool to access policy and FAQ information. We're going to make sure to select the Pinecone index called demo. It's the only one that we have created for this account. So demo. And then at the very bottom, we'll add an option designating the exact namespace that we're going to use called FAQ. So that all looks great. You can click embedding down here or click out and add a embeddings model right here. And we're going to add OpenAI's embeddings model to match up with the Pinecone vector store. So same thing as before, we're going to add the same dimensions. So 512, so everything matches up. And now our AI agent should be able to access the Pinecone vector store. So if we run this workflow, what will happen is the text classifier should classify that email as a customer support email, which it looks like it did. And the AI agent should be able to pull the information from the Pinecone vector store database and respond to that email, or at least generate a response. So we click into AI agent. This is the response that it has generated. So you can return unopened items within 30 days. Remember, this is responding to the what is your return policy question. And then it continues with just contact us at support@petsforlife.com, yada, yada, yada. It has the sign off that we designated Martha from Pets for Life. Okay, looks great. Now the next step is that we need to give the agent the ability to actually respond in Gmail. And we're going to actually add a label as well to this response so that we as a user know that AI has responded and that this is a customer support response. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a Gmail add labels node. So we're going to click add label to message. So just make sure that you're using the same credential, message, add a label, and then for message ID, we're going to go under Gmail trigger, pull this ID right here, right there. And then for label names or IDs, make sure that you have created a label within your Gmail account. So I have created a customer support label, so I can click customer support there. So now if we execute this step, it looks like it worked, but now we need to finish it up and give the agent the ability to reply. So we're going to add the Gmail reply to a message node right here. Make sure, again, using the same credential, message ID, same as before, pull that ID from the Gmail trigger node. We're not responding as a HTML type. Instead, it's text. And this time we want to pull the output from the AI agent right there. The only last thing we want to do here is add option and then click the append n8n attribution and make sure to turn this off. Otherwise, it will send and basically say sent with n8n. Last but not least, let's just execute that step and see what happens. So the node was executed successfully. If we go into our Gmail, we can actually see that it has responded to that customer support question. It's labeled it with a customer support label, and it's done a pretty good job, and it has the sign off that we wanted. And if we just double check with the with our FAQ document. So what is your return policy? It says unopened items can be returned within 30 days. Contact us at support@petsforlife.com to start a return. So let's head back into Gmail and see if that lines up. So you can return unopened items within 30 days. Just contact us at support@petsforlife.com to start the return policy. So that seems to line up pretty well, which is pretty great. Now, this is a pretty relatively simple workflow. It only has 2 branches, and there's a lot of things that you could do to build this out, whether it's adding a path for high urgency requests or finance and billing notifications. There's many different paths that you can build out to make this even better. But really what we wanted to build out here was a customer support agent, which could pull information from a PDF that was loaded into a vector storage database. So that'll be all for this one. If you want to learn more about AI and building AI automations and agents in n8n, then make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more. Thanks so much for watching.